Angelo, sorry.
That's okay.
Ralph Oakenquest is here as well. John Cifarelli is going to be in with Ralph. Judy, you're here.
Yes.
Ann's here. Pat's here. Dennis, you're here as well, right?
All here.
Dennis, we just need you to unmute.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, just bear with us a couple seconds. We're going to work on getting us live, and then we have to admit everybody else.
Josh?
Yeah.
Steve Pepe is also on the screen. He's the president of Racebrook Country Club.
He identified him, Jimmy.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear him.
That's okay. All right.
I was hung up on Conangelo.
All righty.
People are going to be sorry that I have a camera.
Can you answer that? Unmute themselves. Start video. And just to be clear, just a question. Does anybody need to share their screen, or are we okay?
No, we're okay.
Okay, perfect. All right. I just need to make. Okay, we're in a chat. Start video.
Are we ready to do that?
Just one sec. I think, let me just make sure that we can only host only. I think we are ready. Yeah. Yeah, we have everyone here. Yeah. All right, everybody. I believe everybody's starting to join now. Just please bear with us.
Hey, Josh, I'm being asked what the channel number is for Frontier. Do you know that?
Please bear with me a second, everyone.
Mitch, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Pat.
Okay.
I hear you, Pat.
Frontier OGAT is channel 6063. It's in the legal notice.
6063. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, everyone, it looks like we're all set to start. So whenever you're ready, you can take it away.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special town meeting on February 2nd, 2021. It is now 7:08 p.m. I welcome many with all the questions and concerns regarding this issue. But first, I will turn it over to Town Clerk Patrick O'Sullivan to read the call of the legal notice.
Thank you. Notice of special town meeting. Notice is hereby given of a special town meeting of the Town of Orange to be held on February 2nd, 2021 at 7 p.m. virtually via Zoom for the following purposes. 1, to receive communications from the Board of Selectmen with respect to a resolution entitled Resolution Appropriating $8,600,000 for the purchase of the Racebrook Country Club, 246 Derby Avenue, Orange, Connecticut, including approximately 287 acres of land, buildings, and improvements thereon, and authorizing the issuance of $8,600,000 of bonds of the town to meet said appropriation, and pending the issuance of thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose. 2, to consider a resolution entitled Resolution Appropriating $8,600,000 for the purchase of the Racebrook Country Club, 246 Derby Avenue, Orange, Connecticut, including approximately 287 acres of land, buildings, and improvements thereon, and authorizing the issuance of $8,600,000 bonds of the town to meet said appropriation, and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose. At its meeting held on January 26, 2021, the Board of Selectmen voted to submit item 2 of the call of the special town meeting to a referendum vote at an adjourned town meeting to take place at High Plains Community Center on Tuesday, February 16th, 2021, at the hours to be determined by the town meeting. 3, to set the hours of voting on the above referendum. 4, to transact any other business proper to come before such meeting. Copies of the proposed bond resolution are on file and open to the public inspection at the office of the town clerk. The public can attend the meeting via one of the following methods. Zoom. Pre-registration is required. The registration link can be found on the Town of Orange website, Special Town Meeting, Zoom pre-registration. Participant will be allowed to public comment via the Zoom chat feature. Public access television channel Optimum OGAT channel 79 and Frontier OGAT channel 6063. Participant will be allowed to public comment via email. Email will be provided at the start of the meeting. The email is to jzeoli, J-Z-E-O-L-I, @orange-ct.gov. Dated at Orange, Connecticut, the 26th day of January, 2021. It's signed by all of the Board of Selectmen, and it's attested by myself, Patrick O'Sullivan. I'd also like to note for the record that the notice of the special town meeting bearing the written signatures of all of the Board of Selectmen was posted on the signpost outside the front of the town hall on January 27th. It also appeared in the New Haven Register, a newspaper having circulation in the town of Orange, in the issue of the January 27th, 21 paper. It was also posted on the town's website in the legal notice area. Mr. Zioli, I'm done with what I have to do.
Thank you, Mr. O'Sullivan. Okay, for those of you at home or some other remote location watching this meeting tonight, I will have the participants that are on screen that you are seeing at home each introduce themselves, and so that each please watch so that you see who's speaking. I'd like to start with Ralph. You're up in my top corner. You start the introduction. Unmute first, please. Okay, can I start? Selectman Ralph Oakenquist is there. Thank you, Ralph. Okay, Judy, would you like to introduce yourself next? Unmute, unmute, unmute. Oh, you may not be able to. Okay. Margaret Novicki, Selectman. Thank you. Mitchell Goldblatt, Selectman. Wave. There we go. John Carangelo, Selectman. Thank you. We're also joined by Steve Pepe, you'll see on your screen, who is the president.
Apparently they were muted.
Well, they muted themselves, so we can do an ask on mute.
Oops.
Yes, they were muted, Josh. They were unable to.
Now, okay.
Okay, I just unmuted everyone. Sorry about that, everyone.
Thanks.
Okay. No, they're not all unmuted. Judy's now muted. John's muted.
I am waiting for them to. I'm asking for them to unmute. That they're muting themselves.
Oh, okay. Judy.
That's fine, Judy. Hold on. Judy. Okay. Judy asked to unmute. Oh,
Judy.
Judy.
There we are. Good evening, everybody.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for joining us. We're really glad. Your input is going to be so important, and your questions. So welcome.
Thank you. Margaret, now that you're unmuted.
Good evening, everybody. I'm very glad that this meeting is being held, and I welcome hearing your concerns and your views.
Mitchell.
Good evening, Mitch Goldblatt.
John Carangelo.
Good evening, everybody. John Carangelo.
You people will see Steve Pepe. Steve, introduce yourself.
Steve Pepe, thank you for having me tonight.
Absolutely. And Attorney Dennis.
Evening, everyone. Dennis Kokinos from MZS Law.
Thank you. Okay, this is a opportunity that has really stirred a lot of emotion within our community and even beyond our community, with people with concerns, people with thrills, some people not as happy as others. We've been fielding a lot of questions and emails. I think, to the best of my knowledge, every email that I saw, I have responded to. So we're going to move forward with that. This started as an issue for Racebrook Country Club, and it was discovered when my sanitarian came in and told me that they were going forward with digging some test holes. So I watched Steve Pepe gave an excellent presentation to the Rotary Club a week or so ago. And Steve, if you can give that summation again of how we got to this point in Racebrook's view, I think would be very important for those at home.
Sure. So Racebrook, we were looking for a way to reduce our long-term debt. We had built a new clubhouse back around 2000. Although we've been able to pay our obligations to the bank, we thought it best at this time to eliminate that long-term debt. We hired a firm, Malone and McBroom, to look at some of our excess property to see whether or not we could carve out some lots and perhaps sell those to pay down some of the debt. So as Jim said, when Malone and McBroom came to the town sanitarian to discuss the test holes that's when Jim was able to find out about it. He reached out to the club to find out exactly what was going on there. And at that point, he discussed the possibility of doing some type of purchase of the land. We identified 18 lots around the perimeter of the club, basically on Racebrook Road, Orange Center, Route 34, Shepherd Lane, Lambert, Orange Center. So there's 18 lots in that area. So we've been negotiating, speaking to Jim for a little over a year regarding this. So that's how we got to where we are at the moment.
Excellent. Thank you. There have been many things said. One of the many common questions that was asked was, well, why is this such short notice? Why do we just find out about it now? And it has to do with something called confidentiality. The Board of Selectmen, the first Selectmen, Council have been in discussion with the Board of Directors, mainly the President and his designees at Racebrook, in a confidential manner. When you're dealing with something like this, it's very important that it stays confidential for multiple reasons. And once this became a public discussion, I know that Racebrook was approached by a couple potential purchasers, wanted to know about the property, wanted to know what was for sale, what was going to be available. I have the map right here from Mylone and McBroom, sits on my desk, which was the tip off when they were doing the first 18 lots that were on Shepherd Lane, Lambert, Orange Center, 34, Racebrook Road that Steve Pepe already spoke of. So that was when we found out that there was a concern there. We did talk about purchasing just part of the property, but purchasing that part of the property didn't solve Racebrook's problem, and it still left us with that concern. So then through more discussions, it became a possibility to purchase the entire 287 acres and the improvements thereon. I then brought it to the Board of Selectmen, knew I was in discussions on this. And once it was to a point where we could have good board discussion on it in executive session, that's exactly what was done multiple times. And then the entire Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to send this to residents, taxpayers, for this discussion which we're having tonight. Some people seem to think that there was their chatter caused this to push this to this meeting. That's not the case at all. This is required, but unfortunately, it's not quite the same type of town meeting that we've had for other land purchases and other issues where we do have town meeting. This is kind of a new norm, I guess I'll call it, with the COVID situation and all. So this was coming, it's required. Bond Council made sure that it was going to happen in an appropriate and timely manner. And so that's why we're here tonight. This has nothing to do with Jim Zioli individually or any of the other selectmen that sit on this board. This was discussed by the Board of Selectmen, which is their elected job to handle your concerns. And then it is their elected job, if they see so fit, to send it to you, the residents and taxpayers, to consider and then vote on. The vote will be on February 16th at High Plains Community Center, and absentee ballots are also available in the town clerk's office. But this is not an issue, and unfortunately it did lean this way at times. That became whether a political issue, a racial issue, a poke at me or others on the Board of Selectmen issue. It isn't any of those things. It's a consideration for the future of the town of Orange and for the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren of all these people sitting here on this screen right now, with the exception of me. My job is to look out for the town of Orange. I have no children. I have no nieces and nephews. I have no grandchildren. When I'm done, I'm done. My job is to pass things out for the consideration of all the residents of the town of Orange. So it's unfortunate at times that people lose sight of that when they decide to create their chatter. But Racebrook Country Club did some great expansion in the early mid-2000s, 2008 range, I think, is a good time frame. They expanded with a new maintenance facility. Any of you who have been around may remember the old horse sheds that were over there for a maintenance facility. Was in very poor condition. And after 100 years, and they built a new maintenance complex there, which was quite expensive. Then they also opted to develop a new 23,000 plus square foot clubhouse facility, which was also very expensive. They also did some other investments with other structures out on the grounds, with a dual line irrigation system that was very expensive, and some other improvements. Not unheard of, but probably a little too much, too fast. But they've made it through it for all this time. They are not in the condition that many have asked. Many have asked if they're going to go bankrupt, if they're going to fail. We had a review done by the auditors that do the work for the town of Orange, and Racebrook is in good condition. They have a strong financial plan at this point. Those of you who are out there surfing on the net and finding documents for this country club and others, find it and you say, oh, they don't have any money. They're a 501c7 nonprofit organization. They're not supposed to have any money other than the appropriate monies for capital improvements and operation of their facility. It is a organization that is structured that way, and beyond that is not in the rules of the game, I guess is how I'll phrase it. In our discussions about the possibility of the town of Orange considering this purchase, we then spoke with Racebrook, and they were very much in favor of doing a leaseback. I think that in the 16 years I sat here and the 6 years before me that Mitch Goldblatt sat here, neither one of us will ever recall a property purchase where we get some significant scheduled payback for purchasing property. I think that it's a novel way to build on property that may be used for the future. We're not using any state or federal grants for this, because in those cases it is then restricted from any sort of uses other than as it sits. And we thought that there's a possibility, whether in 50 years, 100 years, that there might be something else that might need to go there if golf no longer is the choice. So the Board of Selectmen felt strongly about this, as do I. And I think that at this time, it would be appropriate. I'm going to ask the Board of Selectmen one at a time if they wish to have comment towards this purchase. I'm going to ask Judy Williams and Margaret Novicki, unmute your computers now. Josh is asking us to have you unmuted, and then when it's time, you'll be able to speak. I know Mitch wanted to speak, so I'm going to ask Mitch to have his thoughts first.
Thank you, Jim. Good evening. I am Mitch Goldblatt, a member of the Board of Selectmen for the past 27 years. I am proud of the fact that for several decades and under different administrations, the town of Orange has acted to preserve open space and strengthen the fabric of our community. We have made several acquisitions and utilized both public and private means to retain parcels of land. The 2015 Plan of Conservation and Development identified Racebrook Country Club as a priority open space area, and we have the ability to make that happen. Racebrook Country Club includes a 27-hole golf course, which has a storied history over 100 years. Unlike property on the Post Road, though, this is not a business that can be easily repurposed. Racebrook currently pays the town about $125,000 per year in property taxes. And while such payments would cease, so do the property taxes of all parcels that the town acquires. When we agree to purchase land in Orange, we do so to preserve it as a farm, a forest, a pond, an overlook, or a recreation area. However, unlike any other town open space, there is a plan to lease the property for a considerable sum that would completely pay for the cost of bonding. So let's address the gorilla in the room, bailing out Racebrook Country Club. I do not regard this as a bailout, but rather as a partnership and an investment. Sure, some residents are upset that we are assisting a business in trouble. Let's think about it. Almost every tract of open space we own has financially helped a private entity. Perhaps it was a landowner who could no longer make a living farming, or a developer who invested in property for better or for worse, or a business that no longer wanted to steward excess land. In every case, we felt it would be beneficial for the town of Orange to own that land. Yes, we paid for it. And yes, someone received that money who otherwise may either have gone bankrupt or sold to the highest bidder. In this case, the town and Racebrook Country Club have collaborated to maintain a large parcel with acres of manicured green areas from falling into disrepair or unknown development. So we will pay Racebrook Country Club so they can resolve their immediate financial difficulty. But unlike nearly every other parcel we have procured, there will be a significant revenue stream to the town over the next 40 years. Every lease payment we receive is more than we have received for any other land holding in town. Keeping this parcel as open space is a priority, and this distinctive arrangement allows the town to be paid back for ensuring its preservation. There is legitimate concern that the public will be unable to utilize this land while it's being leased. I am hopeful that a final contract will help alleviate that. But let's not lose sight of what is most important, our ability to preserve open space today and to determine the development of our town in the future. We purchased Ewan Farm for approximately $100,000 per acre, and Racebrook Country Club will be bought for under $30,000 per acre. Based on the current cost of building lots, this is a bargain, and that price will probably only rise as time goes on. Working with the owners of Racebrook before they went to a developer has allowed us to negotiate a fair deal and not one that was inflated by potential building lots. As long as Racebrook continues as a country club, everything will stay the same. Most are probably not aware, but the town already leases certain parcels for farming purposes at a very low rate, allowing us to maintain the property as we remember it. So once again, we will lease the property to keep it as we remember it. If instead of working with the Board of Selectmen, Racebrook had decided to sell off some or perhaps all of their land, there is no guarantee as to what would happen to this property. Perhaps it would have become another Fieldstone Village of senior living, another Farm River Estates of multi-million-dollar homes, another Avalon of hundreds of apartments, or some other venture we haven't even considered. However, now the town will not have to determine what impact such a development would have, and also not look to negotiate with a landowner who holds us hostage before we potentially buy the property at an inflated rate. It is possible that over the years, the business does fail. If that were to happen, the town would own the property. Perhaps we would sell a portion for development that we feel is appropriate at that time. Perhaps it might be at a time that we were seeking property for a new school, a new firehouse, a new senior center, a performing arts center, or some other municipal enterprise. Any of these developments would require significant land, but in that case, the town would already own the land and would have an opportunity to make any of these visions a reality without having to purchase property at some higher market price. This is a unique opportunity for the town of Orange, and one that requires looking towards the future of our community. We need to consider what happens beyond today and embrace this as an investment in our town for generations to come. Someday, I hope we are all thanked for making such a wise decision. Therefore, I strongly urge everyone to vote yes for the purchase of the Racebrook Country Club on Tuesday, February 16th.
I will ask Ralph Oakenquist. Do you have anything at this point to thoughts on this?
Thank you, Jim. Yes, I do, but I'm not going to go into the length that Mitch did. But I do want to say that I agree with what Mitch said. And this has been a nonpartisan thing on the board for the last year. Everybody has, as we've gone along, everybody has agreed that this is a win-win for the town and the people. The money we're spending now, we will be getting back in lease payments. We will be getting a piece of property that will increase in value over the years. And I think it's much better to have something like this there that instead of having maybe some developer come in. But I am planning to vote a yes when the election comes up, referendum in 2 weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ralph. Judy Williams. Unmute, unmute. Judy, unmute.
Just unmuted her, sir. I'm asking to unmute.
Thank you. Okay. Hi. When you go any place in town and you go walk on the property that has been preserved, you're thankful that it's there. And I think that's the biggest thing that as a selectman, as a town resident, I think of looking around the town of Orange. And if you just imagine that whole property just being totally developed, I think it would be a crime. We need to hang on to this open space. And I think this ability for us to own it so that in the future, as Mitch was saying, we can use it for other possibilities. It's a win-win. So I really do. I encourage everyone to go forward. Please come out. Please voice your opinion in a vote. But please think down the road for future use of that land. So thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Margaret.
Yes, thank you, Jim. Good evening, everyone. The purchase of Racebrook land is clearly a challenging issue for our town, and I have heard many good arguments in favor and against. My initial concern was the price tag of the purchase, but as we discussed the issue in depth in several Board of Selectmen meetings, I became convinced that purchasing the land is the right decision. Ultimately, my concern too, as has been expressed by my colleagues, is for the long-term viability and future and welfare of our town. And I believe that purchasing this 287 acres of land is a very good investment in our open space with significant revenue returning to the town over 40 years. And of course, the price of land in Orange will only increase over time to our town's eventual benefit if we own that land. Should the property go to developers, the impact upon our town obviously would be very unclear, but it could be substantial and could require significant investments in our school system, utilities, etc., the costs of which we cannot foresee. I also feel very strongly that this is a decision that must be made by an informed public. And for this reason, I am very pleased that we have this meeting being held tonight, which will enable our townspeople to put their questions and concerns forward. And I believe that this is the best way for everyone to be able to make an educated decision in the referendum. I am voting in favor of this purchase in the referendum. Thank you.
Excellent. Dr. Angelo.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you, fellow Board of Selectmen members. I'd like to reiterate to the public that I am in favor of the acquisition in question. When we were first approached with this topic several months ago, I thought a lot about it because there was a lot of questions as to the magnitude of the purchase price, what exactly we were getting, and where we go from there. So my biggest concern as I sit here today is why allow there to be an issue about the future of property? Why should we be concerned if we don't control the destiny of it? In a situation that's been presented to us today, we have an opportunity to be a landlord. All the other open spaces that we have in town, we're not a landlord. We own it. We're responsible for it. In this situation, we have an opportunity to be a landlord. Racebrook would be our tenant. But the benefit of it is this. We know what our responsibilities will be when we become the landlord. What you need to be concerned about, ladies and gentlemen, is what if we're not? You allow this property to be sold to a third party. What happens then? Well, to be honest with you, we don't really know. But assume for a second it's sold to a developer. Well, it's been told to us, and it's maybe accurate, maybe not. But if it's sold and somebody desires to build apartments there, McMansions, as we rephrase them, what's going to happen to the town? Well, we have a public infrastructure that we have to worry about. We may need to increase our police department. We may need a full service fire department, not just volunteers. We may need to acquire more teachers. We may have to open up a new school. All of these things clearly are potential foreseeable issues. So as I sit here today, I'm in support of knowing what's in front of us. I don't want to worry about a crystal ball and look into the future. We have an opportunity here. Yes, it's going to affect each and every one of us, but I'd rather know today how it's going to affect my pocketbook versus tomorrow when I don't know. So I encourage all my friends and family and residents of the town to get out there and support the acquisition as presented to you. And I look forward to hearing your argument in favor or against. And I thank you for the opportunity to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. That is our Board of Selectmen, and you have heard their thoughts. And trust me, when this was first brought to the Board of Selectmen, and this was discussed, and this number was discussed, myself included, had some butterflies over something of this amount. And then I was reminded of the proposal for Turkey Hill Preserve, which was one that certainly packed the community center gymnasium on more than one evening. Yeah, it's 376 acres. It was a 252 home planned development over 2 miles from one end to the other, the main roadway from Turkey Hill Road at Derby Milford all the way through to Yellow Brick Road. And the town ended up paying almost $7.5 million for that. We're more than, I think we're 10 or 12 years into a 20-year bond on that. And the amount of people who are glad in that whole region over there and the school system over there at Turkey Hill that that was done was a wise decision. And this is a similar decision. Racebrook School is bursting at the seams. Mary L. Tracy, which is your pre-K and kindergarten system, is bursting at the seams. Many years ago, some of the old timers did sell land. And at that point, it was developing property that had sat for generations and generations. But you reach a tipping point when that balance could be completely put in the wrong direction. You've heard different thoughts on the process, the expenses, and the reasons from our selectmen, how they feel this way. They're the people that are elected at your thoughts to represent each and every one of you. So with that said, we'll get into more of the questions on this. Initially, when this was started, our bond broker did a workup for me, but it was in early January. And the interest rates, believe it or not, have come down since then. But it's estimated that the $8.5 million borrow at the end of the 20-year cost will cost the town of Orange about $10.3 million. The lease is a 40-year lease, and we have questions here. Why are we giving them a free ride? Why are we not charging them right from the start? Why are we giving them a long-term break? Well, Racebrook Country Club has a significant mortgage payment yearly now, which has strapped them but not broken them, as some of you have thought in your comments that we've received here. However, if it continued down that road, that's not the best way for them to do business. So in discussion with the Board of Racebrook representatives and Town of Orange representatives, we split the payments so that ultimately their return to the Town of Orange will be greater than the expense of the 20-year bond. This way, it allows them to function without the stress which they currently have from Ion Bank and Newtown Savings Bank. And it allows the Town of Orange to work with that. This is not a bailout. A bailout, to me, would be when you give somebody the money and it doesn't happen. It doesn't work out and you never see them or the money again. You're buying an asset. Whether Racebrook thrives for this 40 years and beyond, or if they were to fail through some unfortunate circumstances, as many of you have said is a possibility. You own the 287 acres, a 23,000 plus square foot banquet facility, a 27-hole golf course, and all the other improvements thereon. And it can remain that way, or it might find another use at some point in that life. Any of that is possible. But concerns. So for those of you out there, how much is this going to cost? It's calculated at this time, and it can only be estimated until the bonds are sold and we know the actuals on it, which won't happen until long after all these other things are negotiated. If you own a home in Town of Orange that has a value of approximately $360,000, your tax to support this purchase would be approximately $52. If you have a home that's worth $700,000, you're being assessed on it at about $500,000 because we do 70% in Orange. It would be about $105 per year for that purchase. If you have $1 million home, and yes, there are more than you know out there, it's assessed at about $750,000. Your tax would be $158 a year. Are the impacts that have been calculated on this. Until the bonds are sold, we don't know. Right now, commercial taxable municipal bonds, I should say municipal, not commercial, bonds are in the 1.6 to 1.8% interest rate range. That doesn't mean it won't change. The market has had some interesting volatility as of late, but this is the best data that we have that we can work with.
I just have to get some.
If you were to try to build a new clubhouse at Racebrook or like Racebrook's right now at over 23,000 square feet at roughly $300 a foot, it's almost $7 million for one building. Absent the land, absent the maintenance facility, absent the two residential properties that the golf pro and the ground superintendent live in, absent all other improvements on the property. Just the banquet facility would be approximately $7 million. So that is certainly something to think about. In these questions we've received today, which there are a few, we've also received some positive comments as well. We have a couple questions from Marlene Itzler here, and she says, as Racebrook has been having financial difficulties, will they be able to pay the rent? Was there any financial due diligence undertaken? Yes, Marlene, we had our auditors from the town of Orange that do the books of the town of Orange do a review over there, and they felt confident in Racebrook's ability to fulfill this lease and come to terms with the town of Orange in this agreement. You also ask, why are they getting a 2-year rent abatement? Well, it's not really a 2-year rent abatement because we're in 2021. The first payment on the bonds won't be until the budget year 2022, and Racebrook will have their first payment due in 2022. So they're not getting 2 years for free. They will be paying in the same year that our bond starts to come due with the yearly requirement there. Jennifer Gregory asked, what is the tax burden? Jennifer, if you're watching, I just gave it, but again, I'll say if you live in a home that's approximately $360,000 value, it would be $52. If you live in the home with a $700,000 value, it would be about approximately $105. And if you live in the $1 million home, it would be approximately $158. These are only estimates at this time until the bonds are sold. Karen Adelino, why can't Racebrook sell off 9 holes and pay off their debt? They have a plan, which I held up earlier tonight, Karen, if you didn't see it. This is a plan from Milo and McBroom. It's for 18 or 19 lots that border Shepherd Lane, Lambert Road, Orange Center, Route 34, and Racebrook Road, and it won't pay off their debt. And then they have a piecemeal project, and there will have to be more after that. That amount would not satisfy it because remember, there will be gains on this as well. So there's more debt, all the engineering, other work that will have to be required. So that will not cover it at that rate. So to sell off just 9 holes, it won't work. That evaluation was done by Racebrook. Joanne Rudolph, why is the country club selling the property? I think I've already spoken to it. An over anxious board of directors back in the early 2000s. They did some great improvements over there, but the debt burden is heavy, and they wish to alleviate that debt burden, and they feel that this is a way that benefits the town, benefits the residents in the long-term future of the town, and also benefits Racebrook Country Club. Nobody's said that the business is not successful. The business is successful. They currently have, I believe, about 300 members. I believe that they've signed up over 90 new members in the 2020 year. And I know of a couple actually that will be joining there shortly. One I thought already had, but they will be. So it's expanding. It's not contracting their business. If the business did not succeed, that's the exact reason why Orange needs to consider this option that we're discussing tonight. If for some reason that Racebrook didn't succeed, you own the property, the 287 acres and all the improvements thereon. That is the reason for this. You're buying 287 acres and the improvements. This is, Joanne also asked, why do we want to become a landlord? I already expressed that. This will be one of the first property purchases that will actually pay the town back significant funds for a property purchase. It's a brand new concept that we've never done before, and I've been contacted by a couple other first selectmen who are quite intrigued by it and may try it in other communities here in the state of Connecticut also. All the upsides depend on the success of the country club. The country club is successful. This is doubtful based on the need to sell. No, not at all. It's a wise business decision by Mr. Pepe and his board of directors to alleviate debt. And actually their business would be much stronger, not weaker, by eliminating that $7+ million in debt. Thank you, Joanne. Oh, Fred O'Brien. How many suitable third-party management companies are realistically available to operate the club? I can only say, Fred, I've been contacted by two, one out of Virginia and one out of Georgia at this time. Both contacted the First Selectman's office to see if we had any interest in using them. At this time, we told them no, but we will consider them in the future if it was a necessary happening. Racebrook, our agreement is with Racebrook Country Club, not any other companies. Is the town of Orange doing a comprehensive analysis of the current and likely future business vitality of the club? The town of Orange did a review of their finances. Our auditors did it. None of us in-house did it. It was done by the accountants that handle the books also for the town of Orange. And they made that opinion that they're in good condition. Who approached whom initially about this deal and when? Well, Mr. Pep spoke to that right in the very beginning. Racebrook was doing test holes about it. I found out about it through our town sanitarian, and I approached Racebrook to find out what the situation was over there and what the considerations would be. In the beginning, I talked to them about purchasing just the property bounded by Shepherd Lane, Lambert, Orange Center, Route 34, and Racebrook Road. Ultimately, it involved the entire property, not just one side of the street. What guarantee or assurance of any sort will the town have as to the receipt of rent as discussed in the fifth paragraph of the letter from Mr. Zioli? Well, there will be a lease between the landlord and the tenant. If for some reason the tenant is unable to fulfill their terms of the lease, they would have to come to terms with that, and they would probably either solve the problem, or they would no longer be operating there. I don't think that is the intent of Racebrook Country Club at all. I don't think this board of directors would consider entering into it if they didn't feel that they were able to do that. Will there be a commitment for a specific length of term on any agreement with the operating entity? Initially, in rough draft, is a 40-year lease. There's been discussions about extensions to that. There's been discussions of the yearly lease payment. There's a 5-year escalation clause after the initial 6 years, and it escalates each 5 years after that. If the club is financially viable, why is it for sale? To satisfy debt from the early 2000s that was created by previous boards. The expansion was wonderful. They did a great job, but unfortunately it was probably a little over anxious. And then with some dips in the economy and some other things, it made it a little bit difficult to function and always be on the upside, as many people would know. Ken Lenz. I already answered a large amount of questions from Mr. Lenz. He sent 6 questions and like 11 sub-questions a week ago. Here are a few questions I'd like to address at the meeting. Why was tonight's Zoom meeting limited to 100 attendees? Ken, our meeting was limited to 100 initially because that's what the town of Orange's contract with Zoom was. That was updated, and we have I think a 500 member Zoom capacity now. That's why. Why did the town not offer to purchase only the undeveloped part of the Racebrook acreage, part of as Racebrook Road had initially intended? Actually, if you look at the map, their lots do cut into the golf course in different areas, Ken. I have offered the map for people to see. The selectmen, I believe, saw a map in the very beginning. So that's why. Then we'd own the fringe property and they'd own the rest, and it wouldn't solve the debt problem. Once Racebrook Country Club is purchased by the town and leased back to the members of the Racebrook Country Club to enjoy, how much will taxpayers be paying in extra taxes annually to support that? I answered that question. Your new home, Ken, you'd probably be just under $100 a month, I'm going to guess. Since a $700,000 home is $105. To the best of my knowledge, you'll be in that range. So that should be the answer to that. Has an environmental site assessment been performed for the town on the Racebrook Country Club property? That will be done and completed prior to sale. What protections will be in place, if any, to prevent the town of Orange from being forced to take over management of the golf course and country club facility if the club fails or defaults on the lease? That bridge would have to be crossed at that time by the Board of Selectmen, whether it were this board or a board in 20 years or 40 years. I already stated earlier to another resident's question, there are some management companies out there, and there always is that possibility. There always will be an unknown with that, but it's not foreseen at this time. Thank you for your thoughts. Stuart Levitz, my first question is why the town should be involved in a private enterprise. If I understand correctly, Racebrook Country Club stays in existence. Myself, my children, and my children's children would never be allowed to even step foot on the property. Well, Stuart, that is not a fact at this time, and we've had discussions with Racebrook about the possibility of there being Orange days or occasional days that Orange residents would be on a pay-to-play fee to play there. However, with note to that, we do have 2 other golf course country clubs in town owned by others that are taxpayers and businesses in the community. And we have to be very cautious with that because you could also affect those 2 other facilities, Orange Hills or Grassy Hill Country Club. So we need to be cognizant of the other taxpayers that operate similar business within the town also. What has been the membership for the last 10 years, and what has been the club's profit picture for the last 10 years? I can only tell you at this time, it's approximately 300 members. They've taken on new members in 2020, and they continue to take on new members. I also stated earlier, they're a 501c7, so they are not a business profit company, as you would expect. They're a not-for-profit. So monies that they make go back into the business and the operation of the facility. There isn't money beyond for the profit side of it, as you would see in a normal private business enterprise. The risks seem to be taken by the town with no benefit. If the club stays in business, we realize no profit until year 20. If it goes under, we're left with a large bond to be paid, which translates to higher taxes. Why should the town take this risk? Well, the risk is the town's. Same as when Mitch and I both have spoken about purchasing other properties in the town. There is risk. We have to buy that property and we have to pay for that property. In this case, if they were to go out, you have a facility that you could bring in a management company or a new leasing tenant, or the town could do something along their all by themselves, something like the Orchards that Milford owns. There's many, or Sacred Heart that bought Great River. There are many opportunities out there, but those are unknown. Like I said, it is the first time that I remember where we're purchasing a property that we get a significant payback on that. And at this time, I don't perceive that as being a downside to this one.
Oh, okay.
Judy's back, I guess. Let's see. I don't know the person's name. It's M. Margai is the email on it. What will happen financially if and when the country club fails? Who incurs this financial loss? The loss to the club would be the clubs. The impact on finances to the town would be the towns, and the town would have the opportunity, as I just stated, to find a new tenant or leasee or management company for the property. What is the benefit to the people of Orange besides preserving the property? This seems like poor financial decision when so many local businesses are closing due to COVID and so many people are struggling to pay taxes. How will this help the people of Orange? I think it was spoken of earlier, the impacts on the school system, other municipal services, and the character of the community. You have not lived here too long. I believe you bought Peter Furla's house on Dogburn. I think there must have been a reason why you chose to move to the community, where you find living in the country very relaxing with honey that you produce and chickens and eggs. And it's all part of our community fabric, has been said by some of the other selectmen at different times. It is part of the fabric of the community, and it retains the character of the community. And as I said earlier, this is something for future generations. It's not really for any of us. This is for your children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. It's for the future of the entire community of the town of Orange, not any one of us individually. And that's how I think all of us have looked at it. How does bailing out a private business look when so many other businesses are in financial trouble? Where do we draw the line, and who gets the bailout and who doesn't? This is not a bailout. You are purchasing 287 acres and all the improvements thereon. If you weren't getting something in return for your money, then it would never have been brought to the Board of Selectmen. It is not a bailout. You're purchasing property. Thank you, Melissa. So down the bottom. Judy Levitz. What is the financial risk if the town does not get involved in this transaction, as the town controls the zoning for future use of Racebrook Country Club? That is true. And as some of the selectmen had said earlier, you could get a high density project as something like Fieldstone. You could get something like Avalon. You could get something like Farm River Estates. All of those would have larger impacts on your tax dollar than this project would. It's something to consider for the future of the town. Just because you control zoning, depending on what type of application comes in, sometimes it's not up to the town to tell a developer no, or a developer to tell us why we need something in particular. It's up to the town to say, this doesn't fit our community. And many times we end up in litigation with that. Please share some statistics regarding the membership and financial solvency. Over the last 10 to 15 years, I cannot go back that far. I can tell you currently the club is a 300-member club. They have openings for more members, anybody out there who wishes to join. They are solvent at this time as the review. Actually, is the membership growing, attracting younger members, or stagnant with aging members? Quite honestly, I know some of the new members that have joined, and they are younger people, much younger than me, most of them, that are joining the club. Mr. Pepe's nodding his head. There are a lot of young men and women that have joined the club in the last year. Without clear census of the current unpredictable future ages of the average homeowner in Orange, how can an argument be made that building homes on the property would tax our schools? Depends what type of homes were built. Please address the fear that building on the land would make Orange lose its small town charm. Well, with over a couple thousand feet of road frontage, that would certainly impact that character and charm as you drive down Racebrook Road or Orange Center Road or Route 34. Any of those, that's how it would affect that character and that charm as far as we believe. If that is the case, then the millions of dollars being spent to acquire this land could be put to use better by enlarging our schools. Explain why this alternative is not feasible, since the properties would be taxed and bringing revenue to the town. Currently, Orange Elementary School, it's about $18,000 a year per student, and Amity is at approximately $20,000 per year for a student. If you have a lot of these big homes, if they're the big places, they'll be taxed in the 20,000 to 25,000 range. If you have 2 or 3 children in that house, do the math. If it is a large scale development, then a school will be needed. Part of that land over there probably going to have to be purchased from a developer to build a new school. So we wouldn't own the property, and we'd have to pay developer price to purchase a large piece there, because the parcel that Racebrook School currently sits on is not very expandable beyond what it is. I was on the committee for the last expansion there, which is, I think, now the 6th grade wing, which comes out towards the parking lot where the tennis courts used to be. And there wasn't much other space left there to expand. So you would be purchasing a parcel regardless to build a school. And that in itself would probably be most of the price that you're paying for this entire parcel. Thank you. Robert Bedrigian, when will the environmental studies be done? That will be done before closing in the spring on that for a review. What is the net profit to the town? Yearly rent minus property tax lost as a result of sale. It will be a profit someday, Robert. It isn't a profit initially, because between the rent that the tenant would pay and what the town of Orange has to pay for that 20-year bond, there won't be a profit initially. It will be purchasing the property similar to a mortgage on your home. After that, then Racebrook will continue to pay. You can consider that as revenue, or you can consider it as money already spent and apply it backwards towards what you paid towards that bond. That would have to be done by a Board of Finance that is sitting at that time, and a Board of Selectmen that is sitting at that time, and a finance director as to how they would title that, but that's what it is. What is the cost to the town if the club reneges on the agreement? The club is not going to renege on the agreement. They're sitting at the table with us, and they're waiting for February 16th as anxiously as this Board of Selectmen are. What is the approximate tax burden per house with agreement intact and with lapse of agreement? Well, as it currently sits, carry most of that debt. If you own a $360,000 home, it's $52. A $700,000 home, $105, or $1 million home, $158 approximately per year. Until the bonds are sold, those are only approximate numbers. What is the reason for such expediency? Seems not enough time to consider the proposal. This has been going for over a year. I spoke in the beginning about confidentiality. That's required on both sides, similar to many other deals that the selectmen have to deal with. And that's why they happen in executive session. This has been going on for a long time. And then when we felt it was right, it goes to the public. That's exactly what we did with this. Is there an 18 months of no rent due? Well, no, not really, because they'll be paying in 22. The bonds, the first payments of the bonds will come due in the budget of 22, 23. So that's exactly how that lined up. In the meantime, any money that Racebrook raises in that area will be going towards, some of it will be going towards their capital fund account, because as part of the lease, they're required to maintain all buildings and property over there. So there needs to be a significant capital account to be sure to do that. Phyllis Leggett. Why does the town feel it to bail out Racebrook Country Club? Via a financial agreement that is inequitable to the town. Well, no, it is equitable. It's not a bailout, Phyllis. This is a purchase. A bailout would be where we're not getting anything in return. We're not the federal government. We're purchasing 287 acres and the improvements thereon for that. It's not because, is it because Racebrook threatened to sell the property for development if the town would not come to their aid? No. They're going to sell some of the property, some or all, whatever they decide works out for them. They didn't strong arm me. You don't know me very well, Phyllis, if you think that that's going to be the case. I looked at it as an opportunity for the town of Orange. There was no strong arming involved there. Would the golf course be able to sustain itself under the lease agreement if golf courses in general are not in favor anymore? It is believed that through the review of their books and all that, yes, they could sustain themselves, and their membership has expanded there in 2020, as I had stated earlier, by 90 plus memberships. Are we not setting a precedent for paying out in order to keep open space? Properties such as Grassy Hill Country Club in Orange Hills experience financial hardship and threaten to sell to a developer in the future. That bridge would have to be crossed at that time. This is the situation here. I can't speak to Grassy Hill or Orange Hills or what they may choose to do. They may just choose to sell some or all of their property at some point too, and the town would consider if it's something that's a plus or a minus for the community at that time. Why can't Orange, a portion of Racebrook property, be developed for one-family homes for the senior segment of its population who want to downsize but stay in Orange? Housing does not have to be the size or cost of Fieldstone or dense townhouses. Rather, a development such as Riverbend and Oxford would be ideal. Well, that's all good, but unfortunately, they owe several $1 million to a couple banks, and those developments would require development probably of one whole side of the street in order for that to net out what they need to satisfy the banks and to continue to function. Deborah Tashling, if the purchase of Racebrook Country Club land occurs, since the interest rate is quite low, might the purchase include a provision allowing town residents to have the opportunity to take advantage of the land by Racebrook Country Club, permitting residents the ability to play the less used 9-hole course on the property for a fee? There is an 18 and a 9-hole course on the property. That will be Racebrook Country Club's decision, Deborah. There has been some discussion of that. There may be some pay to play considered on an occasional basis over there, but that would be up to the board of directors at Racebrook Country Club. We've had that discussion with them though. Judge Smith, who will pay for the upkeep of buildings, parking lots, irrigation system, and other infrastructure? What happens if the tenant fails with their business plan? According to the lease, as we've roughed out, Racebrook Country Club will be handling maintenance, repairs, operation of the facility over there, which includes their clubhouse, homes, maintenance facility, their snack shelter out in the back, irrigation, all the things that are required to operate their country club. What happens if the tenant fails with their business plan? If that were to happen, the town would have to consider their options at that time. Whether we work with them or come up with some other management company that would be interested in the site. Joe Shapiro. What will be the increase to my real estate taxes because of the loss of taxes from Racebrook Country Club, 125, and new cost of debt to finance the purchase? Therefore, what are the benefits to me as an Orange taxpayer for this increase in taxes? Well, Joe, I think you live over there in Fieldstone. Oh, no, you're Rainbow Trail. Okay. The benefit of it is the community and the character in that open space and the reimbursement to the town of purchasing a large piece of property. Again, if your home is about a $360,000 home, your tax impact would be about $52. If your home is a $700,000 home, your tax impact would be about $100 to $105. Now, these are estimates. The bonds won't be sold, and so these are only estimates at this time. What if Racebrook Country Club goes under, like what happened to so many private country golf clubs throughout the country? We need only look at our own local area with the closing of Oak Lane and Woodbridge Country Club. What is the contingency plan for the town? Woodbridge and Oak Lane both suffered from some poor management problems and struggled to solve some of their problems. Woodbridge was actually closed when then a developer was handling that, going to buy it. A young man who actually grew up, a man, he's not young anymore, same age as me. And Woodbridge panicked over there because of that going to possibly be a age-restricted assisted living, something along this line. And they paid over about $7.5 million for 150 acres over there with worn out clubs and facilities, buildings that were in disastrous condition. That is not the case here at Racebrook. It is all in clean and good operating condition, and intend to stay that way. Thank you, Joe. Michael Margolis, please explain the financial implications of this proposal. Does the town lose property tax revenue? And if so, does the lease agreement cover the revenue as the cost of purchasing the property? As I spoke earlier, Michael, over the terms of the lease, Racebrook will be paying the town back approximately $10.6 million, as opposed to the town laying out approximately $10.3 million at the close of the 20-year bond. They currently pay 130 plus or minus thousand in real estate taxes. Under their lease agreement, they'll be paying $250,000 to start for the first 6 years, and then it escalates then, and each 5-year term after that. Diane Olin, what were the membership numbers of Racebrook for each of the last 5 years? I can't tell you that. Currently, it's about 300, and about a third of them are Orange residents. If Racebrook goes belly up, I'm concerned about tax impact on the community. Granted, Orange will have control of the property, but until plans are made for the land and club, the bond will have to be paid and will cause an increase in taxes. That's true, Diane, but there are many other options out there as far as responding to the needs of the operation of that facility. At this time, it is not foreseen for Racebrook to be going out of business, but if that were to happen, there are other vendors out there and service providers that within 1 year's time would be, or less obviously, would be operational. So we would be able to solve that debt problem in less than 1 year. If Racebrook sold off extra land for a 55 development, there would not be an impact on town services. Could this be an option? Unfortunately, they looked at that development of fringe land over there on those streets I mentioned before, and they do all cut into the golf course. So there's not that much excess land as some people seem to feel is over there. Tom Hay. If I understood what I've read, Racebrook Country Club, which includes 2 houses as well as other buildings, pays the town of Orange $125,000 a year in property tax. So how does the town of Orange plan to cover that loss of revenue? They'd be paying back, Tom, $250,000 a year. You can call it towards their tax revenue, or you can talk to it all as bond repayment. It would have to be booked one way or the other, and the town will make that up. In addition to that loss, the town of Orange will pay over $300,000 above the $250,000 a year that the town will receive from Racebrook Country Club. That is correct. In the first 6 years, it is higher. Our bonds are generally front-loaded with a higher amount in the first 6 to 8 years, and then it's declining. In the second half of those payments, their payment covers almost all of it, and the town is putting up like $120,000. So you're correct, but it seesaws, and it will go back the other way as the lease continues. No, the town isn't coming up with $425,000 a year. They'll be coming up with part of it, though, which I already explained. If you live in a $360,000 house, it's about a $52 a year impact. A $700,000 house, about a $100 impact. Very hard to see this as a good move by Orange. Those costs will all go to the town of Orange property owners as higher tax. This purchase does not seem like a benefit to the people of Orange. And other people are thrilled with it, Tom, so I thank you for your thoughts. Okay, this is from Evan Jones. There is a couple parts to this question. Is Racebrook Country Club actually $8.5 million in debt? Evan, I think their debt is actually about, I'll say $7.5 million in a round number. I think I might be a little bit high, but that's the biggest part of it. However, once they sell the property, they're going to have capital gains on top of that. And that's been estimated at another $1.2 million, I think $1.2 million to $1.4 million to go to the IRS on the gains on this. So you add it all up in totality, their people have worked on the numbers, and the 8.5 number is the number that is supposed to make them whole and solve these debt problems. If not, why can't Orange buy enough to bail them out? Well, it's because it takes all of it to do that. They're $8 million in debt or more, and that, or more, and that, how they evaluated the property value. It seems like based on what they pay in property tax, that's a high assessment, assuming $145,000 is paid in property tax, or are they taxed differently? What is the value of property according to the town? I do have their field cards. Their field cards are all right here. They have, on our assessment value, they're over $4 million, but they are taxed differently. They're taxed on tees and greens, but the fairways and other space areas are taxed at excess acreage, so that it is reduced tax in some areas. So the field card won't necessarily represent the same figure as a developer figure would be. If they plan on staying in business as is proposed, why would less of an offer not be acceptable? Because Ion Bank and Newtown Savings Bank won't accept less of an offer. I've already had that discussion with Ion Bank is in the lead on it, and they're not taking less for it. I did hear a funny one on that, though, believe it or not. I have to send Ian some. Forward these. Sorry, everybody. Hold on a minute. Let me send these. And then. Okay, we're caught up again. I haven't even started on the chat questions yet, which are similar. One of the people who was in the executive board of Racebrook at one point made a comment to the person in charge that represents Ion Bank. Why would you have loaned them so much money? And I started to laugh when I heard it, because I guess the person at the bank was a little bit surprised, and I don't know if they had the right answer for it, but you know what? All these things are cyclical. They rise and they fall. There'll be an increase in the value of this property in Orange, and its proximity to New York and Boston and Yale and all that. It doesn't go down in value here. I remember when my parents bought their first house in town, they paid $17,500 for their first house in town. I think it sold a couple of years ago, last year. I think it went for 300 and something thousand. So everything goes with the times. Now I have some positives here I'd like to read into the record. This one is from a David McGanny. If the town buys the property, the lease payments will cover the cost of the bond over 40 years. If the town does not buy the property will be sold to a developer who will either put in single-family homes or subsidized housing. The town can fight it, and an enormous legal expense but will lose. Isn't it reasonable to assume These numbers are based on contractors' estimation of numbers of homes that property can accommodate. Correct. The taxes to town residents would then go as follows. 80 lots times 21 and a half times 2.5 children at $18,500 per child is $3,700,000 increase in school taxes to town residents. 80 homes at $750,000 paying $14,000 a year in taxes will be $1,120,000. So the balance there of $33,700,000 opposite $1,120,000. That leaves the town down $2,580,000 per year plus $15,000 per year to maintain the roads. $1,595,000 in extra taxes per year. And in all likelihood, the town will have to build a new elementary school, as the school will probably not be able to handle all these extra kids to the school system. You're correct, Mr. McGaney. Thank you for your thoughts. This side. This one is from Kelly Orzel. The acquisition of Racebrook Country Club property is a business decision, not political. The townspeople have elected a board of selectmen to oversee the best interest of the people of Orange. The board of selectmen are in favor of this purchase. They have done their due diligence and feel this is a good business decision for our town. Personally, we, as lifelong Orange residents, feel this is an opportunity for Orange to maintain control of the nearly 300 acres. The current plan to lease back Racebrook Country Club is an opportunity for the town to recuperate funds while the property is fully maintained by Racebrook Country Club. In the event Racebrook Country Club breaches the lease agreement, Orange will still be the owner of the land. This is an opportunity to acquire the property at a bargain price. The thought of development would put a huge strain on our town's resources and, most importantly, our schools. If the town does not purchase this property, a developer will. The landscape of Orange will change. Given the close proximity and access to New Haven, the property will likely be developed into cluster housing, condominiums, or apartments. What if we are faced with requests to change zoning? When these proposals are made, what degree and cost will Orange have to pay to fight these proposals? Orange is a great town. People choose to live here because of all we have to offer. The top of that being our excellent school system, including the Amity Regional School District. Our schools alone cannot handle a huge increase in student enrollment. If the property is developed, the town contribution to the Amity Regional School budget alone will be huge, not to mention our wonderful elementary schools. The price we will pay in educational costs alone will far exceed the purchase price of $8.5 million. While we know the development would bring in property tax revenue, it would likely not cover these expenditures completely. Everyone in town will be paying. If this fantastic financial opportunity is voted against, it is gone. We would hope not to follow down the path of purchasing back land from a developer to maintain open space at a higher price tag, which has happened in the past. We are in full support of purchasing this property. Eric and Kelly Orzel. Thank you. Hey, Ian, could I have some water? I'm starting to dry out here. Let's see, to Mr. Zioli. My husband and I would like to publicly support the resolution for the purchase of Racebrook Country Club property. These stunning grounds are an indelible part of our town's landscape. It would be a shame to see further development erase the beauty that Orange residents have enjoyed for years. In addition to preserving that grandeur, we would also avoid the further overburdening of the outstanding Orange public schools. While our town student population has not been redistricted since the 1970s, it would be a realistic necessity if residential development were to occur on the property. While we no longer have children in the school system, we wish for future generations of Orange students to thrive here. We appreciate the respectful manner with which you and the Board of Selectmen have presented this to the town. We are saddened to see some parties' negative discourse related to the issue. It seems that some individuals have felt the need to attack the motives and opinions of others rather than be respectful of differing views. Thankfully, the referendum will allow the residents of Orange the opportunity to let their position be known. We hope that all will take that opportunity to do just that. Respectfully, Nancy and Nicholas Benchavanga, Orange. Take a drink here, people. Okay. This one, there was a question Ann just brought in. Joe Petty, I believe in preserving the land for the town of Orange is ideal. However, I have a few questions. What is the downside if the holder of the lease declares bankruptcy within the next few years? Well, the downside would be that we would have to cross that bridge when we come to it. We would either use another vendor that provides golf type of services. The town could take it on, which I would think would be a mistake, or possibly something else at that time, Joe. What if the town cannot find a client or a third party to take on new leases? Well, there's two that have been asking us and talking to us about it since it broke news in the newspaper quite a while ago. So there are other PGA golf companies out there that do have interest, and I'm sure there's others beyond those too. What will be the town's expenses to maintain the property? At this time, it's understood that Racebrook will continue to operate the property and maintain it under the guide of Mr. Gallagher, their ground superintendent, to keep it as good looking as it is currently. What would be the worst case for the town? The worst case for the town is if it's sold and it's lost forever, or if we had to buy part of it back from the developer in order to fulfill these possibilities of a school or other municipal buildings. Let's see. Two more positives here. How was the decision made to execute a 40-year lease rather than a 30-year lease? Based on the purchase price of $8.5 million for the Racebrook property and the current economic environment with interest rates for bonding at historic lows, I believe the town should move forward with the purchase of the Racebrook property. Not only will it preserve the character of the town, but it is a sound investment decision based on the proposed price. I would encourage residents to vote in favor of this unique once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The alternative would give a developer an opportunity to build additional homes or condominiums, which only would add significant tax burden to our residents. Thank you, Kevin McNabola. And just so everybody knows, Kevin McNabola is the finance director in Meriden, so he fully understands what municipal impacts are through these type of things. Dear fellow residents and friends of Orange, many questions have arisen concerning the referendum to purchase Racebrook Country Club. Though this is not a traditional open space purchase, I have confidence in our leaders that this is the correct and proper direction to take. We must, as we have in the past, continue to be forward thinkers and look at the future of Orange so that it continues to be a cut above the rest, a desirable place to live and raise a family. We have been very successful with previous open space purchases which have tested the resolve of the town. But in the end, it has placed Orange in the forefront of progressive towns in the state of Connecticut. An article which appeared in the New York Times, May 22nd, 2019, titled Orange, Connecticut, a farm town for families, focuses on all that the town has to offer, and its open spaces touted as a positive point, along with its school system and myriad of town services. It has been said that we learn from history, an example being the purchase of Alaska in 1867. Then Secretary of State William Henry Seward moved ahead with the purchase from Russia. It was ridiculed as Seward's folly or Seward's icebox, and the cost to the nation 19 cents per acre, wow, or 7.2 million for 586,412 square miles. Wow. A substantial sum of money for its time, but no comparison to the size of Racebrook Country Club, but is meant to bring up a point. There is a saying that a bird in hand is worth two in a bush. Let us think of what Orange is to be like in the future. Will it be a place where we want our children and grandchildren to remain? Would it not be prudent to have this acreage in the hands of we, the residents of Orange, so that we will control its destiny in the future, or leave it to the whim of a developer or other business entity? Please vote yes on February 16th referendum to purchase. Respectfully, Lawrence Messina, Vice President, Orange Land Trust Board of Directors. Okay, we have some more coming over here. Let's see. How will this bonding for this purchase impact the town's ability to bond for future improvements? Paul Davis. We still have plenty of latitude, Paul. We're at about 3.5% currently or something like that. And it's possible to go up as high as, I would never do it, but as high as 15%. But there is still a lot of latitude there. Thank you for that. David McGanny. Isn't the real benefit of this acquisition, in addition to all those benefits discussed already, to control the property and therefore prevent a developer from potentially buying the property? I need more water. Building many homes and substantially increasing the town's tax base. Increasing the drain on the Orange schools, and an increase in which would be substantially more than the tax increase numbers previously mentioned. Correct, Mr. McGanny, it's CPA. Thank you very much. Krista Rogalski. Aren't we setting a precedent with Racebrook? What happens if Orange Hills comes to us in a couple of years wanting to sell? That always is a possibility, Krista. I don't foresee it today or tomorrow. The Smiths at time have had thoughts of doing other things with some of their property. And it is their property. If they choose to go that avenue, that is their right. We'll have to wait and see if that were to happen. What happens if Racebrook requires maintenance to their buildings? Who is responsible? Racebrook is responsible. What assurance does the town have they will maintain the property? And what happens if they do not? In the lease, one of the things that was discussed was a yearly review by a private separate third party on the town's behalf to look at property and buildings for maintenance and upkeep. So it's in the lease. Anthony Cuso, would they still pay taxes on their equipment? Yes, Anthony, they pay personal property tax as well as real estate. It comes from two different directions though. Racebrook pays part of the personal property tax, and the leasing company that they lease a lot of their maintenance equipment and stuff from also pays. I think combined between the two, I think it's $30,000+ in tax from between the town and the leasing company is the best I can tell you on that. Okay. Let's see. Now I'm going to go to the, let's see. Yes, I'm caught up on that board. So now we'll go over here to the chat. The financial analysis, let me get some more water.
I'll bring a bottle myself when I didn't.
The financial analysis was done by the auditors. No, they are a private company and we're not buying their business. That is not available for public review. That is their business. However, if you surf online, there is ability to find the data from all of the country clubs. I think if you go to the Secretary of State's website. Same person. Mitch referenced this as an open space. Thought you said it would not be limited to an open space use. That is correct. Currently, it is open space. And what I said and what Mitch said was that it would not be restricted as other properties that we've purchased with state or federal money in the past. But currently, it's a golf course, so it is open space. But down the road, if something were to happen, it is not a restricted space. However, it would still go to the public, same as we are going to with this meeting right here. How much revenue in taxes will the town be losing by purchasing the property? It's approximately $130,000 in tax, real estate tax revenue, and they will be paying the lease, which will be going towards the purchase of the property of $250,000 the first 6 years, and then it escalates then in each 5-year period after that. And ultimately, they will be paying in excess of what the bond costs the town over the life of that lease. Who will pay for long-term maintenance repairs on the clubhouse grounds, other facilities? Racebrook Country Club. Will the town be able to check on maintenance of the buildings, et cetera, during time Racebrook is leasing? Yes, it will be in the lease that there is a yearly review of buildings and property for upkeep and whatever else may be needed. Will taxpayers be able to play at golf at Racebrook once we own the property? We will own the property. We do not own the business. Racebrook has had some discussions about occasional orange days or open days where it's a pay-to-play type of thing. By reservation, you would make a tee time if it happens just the same as anybody else. You can't just walk on the course and say, I'm here. Somebody sent me a question. All it says is $52 a month. Yes, that $52 a month number is an estimated number at this time since the bonds have not been sold. If you live in a house that's worth about $360,000, which is assessed by us at about $250 at 70%, the impact would be about $52 a year, not a month. Not a month, a year. Why isn't lease structured to get repaid over same life of the bonds? If we need land and three have a functioning lease, we still have to go to market to buy land. I can answer the first part of that is because if we made the payments of the lease on a 20-year plan, it would be no benefit to Racebrook. They would still have a problem because it's almost the same amount as they currently are paying to Ion Bank and Newtown Savings Bank. That's all I can answer on that. Are attendees allowed to comment or ask questions? Well, you're sending this to the chat, so yes, you can. Are any Board of Selectmen members of Racebrook? Board of Selectmen members also members of Racebrook Country Club? That could be a possibility, I guess, but it really wouldn't matter because the Board of Selectmen are not purchasing this in a vacuum. This is being decided by the residents of Orange, and it was a unanimous vote. So unless 2 or 3 or 4 of the selectmen were members that recused themselves for no reason, since there is no financial gain or benefit on this, it still would pass. And February 16th will decide if it's a plus or a minus for the town of Orange. Jim, I would appreciate just, Judge, you have to do it by way of chat. Let's see, what is the significant payback that keeps being referenced? The significant payback is that over the life of the lease, it returns what was expended by the town, which includes some of their money, to purchase the property. That's the significant payback. That's right. And it says, by my math, it will take 40 years just to recoup our costs on this deal. That is correct. And at the end of the deal, you own 287 acres and all the improvements thereon. If the town is going to become a landlord, why aren't we making any profit on this deal? The profit is in the 287 acres and the improvements thereon. What is the current total? And these only have abbreviated names, which is why I'm not giving you names on most of these, just so you know. What is the current total of outstanding bonding? Will issuing 8.5 million affect our credit rating? No, the town of Orange, very fortunately, has a very strong AAA bond rating. We are in good standing with all the bond companies, and it will not have an effect on our AAA bond rating. And we are at 3.5% to 4% of budget, and we can go as high as 15% at the advice of some bond brokers and counsel. However, you will never see me do that. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Thank you. You just answered those. Sorry, I'm scrolling down, so I don't see the second part until after. What are the specific financial details regarding the 2 private homes on the property? How will the town manage these properties and their occupants going forward? They are part of the lease with Racebrook Country Club. I answered this earlier. One is part of the contractual agreement with the ground superintendent, and the other one is contractual agreement with the pro of Racebrook Country Club. We are not renting out houses or operating houses anymore. That's all under Racebrook's, will be all under the lease. Please mind people when you mention that tax burden that is per year over the next 20 years. Yes, I thought I said that, and somebody else responded already. They thought it was per month. Those figures I gave you for the $360,000 house at $52 is a year, not per month. And the $700,000 house, the $105 is per year, not per month. And the $1 million house is approximately 158 is per year, not per month. You have stated that this is not a bailout, but also say that alternatives to purchasing the entire property don't solve Racebrook's problem. Why isn't Racebrook Country Club being asked to pay a greater portion of the town's bond payments so their financial problem isn't transferred to the taxpayers? Because if we ask them to pay the entire bond yearly in the 20 years, they would be in the same boat as they currently are in with Ion Bank and Newtown Savings Bank. That's why we spread the payments over 40 years, so it was manageable, and we still will own the 287 acres and the improvements at the end of, well, we own it this spring, actually. Will the town be able to sell the property to developers if it so chooses once there is no lease? That would be up to the Board of Selectmen that would be sitting at that time, and that would have to go to referendum of the voters of the town of Orange. You've heard some of the reasons possibly already as to why you would own it. Selectman Goldblatt mentioned some, Selectman Carangelo mentioned some, Selectman Williams and Novicki mentioned some, and Oakenquist, that whether it be a community center, a senior center, a police station, a firehouse, a school, senior housing, there's a myriad of possibilities. So I don't know why you would sell it. You might do some sort of another development on all or part of it way, way down the road. But I guess that Board of Selectmen at that time would have to make that decision. Okay. And brought in more emails are still coming. Board members have referred to the town as the owner and landlord. What additional operating expenses, e.g. insurance, maintenance, would be required to the town? What proactive oversight by the town is proposed? This one is from Dr. Moritz. We will carry it on our insurance under our umbrella. Mr. Cifarelli has gotten the estimate from our insurers that it would be a $10,000 to $15,000 insurance policy to cover the buildings as an additional for us. And Racebrook is also naming us as an insured on all their policies for all their property. However, you know, if something happens, the deepest pockets are always the first choice. Let's see, maintenance and stuff would be done by, would be in the lease towards, would be Racebrook's issue. Why can't any portion be allowed for public access, e.g. there is no, I don't know where some of these questions are coming from. There is no unused 9 holes. There's 27 holes there. Some people play 9, some people play 18, some people play all 27, but there are no unused. I don't know where this is coming from. Different people have different options. There's a possibility that down the road, Racebrook may have some type of an availability to use some of it, but it's under the lease, and that they would have to make that decision. We've had the discussion with them, but that isn't a requirement. Does the town's auditor have expertise in assessing the operation of golf courses? Has the auditor assessed the long-range plan, operating plan provided by Racebrook? The auditors reviewed the books, as I stated earlier, to check to review their solvency, review their business over the past few. to understand where this financial burden came from. And they also were shared Racebrook's increase in membership, their operating costs, business plan, and that, so that they understood all that was being looked at. If we need land for schools and the club is still on a valid lease, then the town will still need to go to market for land. So how does being a landowner make sense? No, if you needed land for a school, it would be because they were selling the golf course to another developer. So then you would need land for a school because of the impact of whatever it may be, whether it be 100 or 200 or 500 living units, whatever it came up with at that time. If the town did not own that particular piece of land, they might have to buy a piece of it from the developer to build a school facility on, as Racebrook is not expandable to what might be needed there. Positive thank you from Charles Flynn for this explanation of all that we've gone through. If we can bond for this, how come we as a town never finished the Wolf Park plan that actually has real benefits? Because, Elliot, there is a committee that's going to be working on the playground there, but unfortunately it got stalled because of the COVID. The playground and some other courts are the next two pieces of that, and you don't bond for a playground. We have $300,000 from the state of Connecticut for that, and there's some other monies available for some of the other improvements there. That's all I'll say on it. Will there be a fact sheet on this posted on the town website? Send me another message, Jody, because I don't know quite what you're looking for with that question. So explain it to me a little bit deeper, please. If the priority is to control the land, would the town be willing to buy the land but not lease back to the country club? In this case, would this permit residents to actually use this land for walking, jogging, and other general recreation uses? At least then the 287 acres will be available for my family to use. Yes, and you will see a larger increase in your taxes because you won't be receiving any revenue back to go towards the bond on that. That was the novel way of purchasing this property, was you're getting somebody to pay you back some significant funds towards the purchase. We have over 1,100 or 1,200 other acres that are available for walking, jogging, dog walking within the town, bird watching, and everything else. So this one was a different use. Perhaps I do not understand, Evan Jones, perhaps I do not understand what field value is or how this works, but if their field value is around 4 million, why is the property worth 8.5 million? That would make my house worth twice its field value. And I can attest, as I just purchased it, willed to me by my father, that is not the case. It's in line with the field value. I think, Evan, that you really need to speak to the assessor on that to understand it. There's a whole stack of field cards, which if you want to come in, I've offered to meet with you through your friend Brian Goldstone was supposed to offer to bring you in to have discussion. I'd be glad to meet with you face to face on that, but and the assessor will too, and we'll share the field cards with you. There's a lot of involvement there, so I can't pull that all apart. Jim, all about optics. Vote for this proposal is only 1 month. From the time it was presented in the New Haven Register, townspeople should be able to view the lease before voting. No, the lease won't be completed till after the vote because there's no reason to have a lease if it doesn't go in a positive manner. There's been rough drafts for lease, but there is no lease at this time, and there won't be until after the vote, because otherwise you're going to be incurring more expense that's not reasonable or sensible. And we don't have the bond figures. We'll have that too, so that's a whole something else that I'm going to take into consideration with it. By their nature, country by the nature, private country clubs are exclusionary. Has there been due diligence regarding the club policies, membership? Thank you. We've spoken with them about membership. There have been some questions about this, but they do operate as a pay-to-play, pay-to-belong club, and that's the nature of Racebrook Country Club since 1912. That's all I can say. Trish, they own an additional 9 holes that is not used. Come on. Trish, I don't play golf. I don't have time to play golf. I can't tell you what holes are used and not used. That is something that Racebrook would have to decide. And Lens, is the auditor's report available to the public? No, as I already stated, they're a private business. The review was done to check on their solvency and business so that we could be certain that they could enter into a lease. That's what was done there. Okay, thank you, Jody, for clarification here. A summary answering these questions tonight for people to refer back to. Well, this will all be taped, Jody, so it will be available for somebody to sit and review at some other time. I knew what frequently asked questions was, FAQ, Jody. I just didn't understand your question, what you were looking for. So yes, it will be available to look at. Let's see. Yes, environmental reviews are of water and soil testing. Golf courses in the past did use a lot of chemicals, but being a user of chemicals myself, I understand, and rules have changed many, many years ago so that the use of chemicals and the types of chemicals has changed drastically, but there will be an environmental review, and we will know if there's any toxicity there. To the best of Racebrook's knowledge, they had this done in the past, I think, for the bank and one of their institutions, and there were no problems, but there could be. So that's what we will be checking for, Jerry. Let's see. Let's go over to the other side here. Dr. Cora Stover, thank you for holding the meeting. For the purchase, are there any acreage that would be specified for residents to utilize without trespassing the business's lease? How will the money that is gained in the future from this purchase, what will it go towards? The golf course really doesn't have that much excess land as some people seem to think. It's around the fringe, around the edges. And if they're leasing the property, it's their insurance in the event that somebody would be clipped by a ball or bumped by a cart or something like that. So there really isn't that much excess acreage. I'm not quite sure where that's coming from, but so I guess the answer is no at this time. How will the money that is gained in the future? Once the bond is paid, Dr. Cora Stover, then that will go towards revenue similar to our cell towers revenue that the town gathers from the 3 cell towers, 2.5 cell towers that we own here. It will go towards the revenue side into the operating funds of the budget. I hope that answers your question on that. Let's see. Email from, let's see. As residents for over 54 years, we have seen our town administrations make wise decisions, and that's why Orange is one of the best run in the state. This is a wise decision, and we plan to vote in favor of it. Daniel and Diana Duarte. So let's see. Well, Ann just dropped off a couple more here. Wait a minute. Okay, that one I just read. Well, according to this person who's a member there, the unused 9 and the 18 lots, which are the map that I held up before from Mylone and McBroom, are one and the same, according to a member. So thank you for that. Let's see if there's any more here. Did I already read this one? Yeah, this one I just read. I have no new emails and I have no new chats up here at this time. Oh, I got everything that Ian had given me there. Those are all over there. And the papers, as we've answered questions to people that have been emailing in questions as directed since this started, Ann has printed them all out. So if any of you want copies of those to see or question or see who you know or something, they are available. I mean, if you really want them, we can provide them to you. They are all public information. I like that. I think with all that covered, I've covered all that I have at the moment. Oh, wait a minute, paper coming in.
You guys adjourn to the meeting to the referendum, and you guys set the hours of the referendum.
Okay. Do any of you have any thoughts that you would like to add? You've heard a lot of questions and input, and it looks like we're all caught up. I don't think there were any surprises there that some of you have heard in one way or another with these questions. Are there any thoughts from any of you regarding anything you heard tonight or reinforcement of anything you would like to say or hear? No? Okay. Attorney, do you think we did an all right job tonight? I see you sitting there just taking this all in.
Did a wonderful job. I can say my first remote public hearing. Great job, Orange. You did a great job.
All right, so with that done, the next thing we need to do is to set the hours of the voting on the referendum. At one of the meetings we had discussed and talked about doing noon to 8 p.m. What are your thoughts as a board on that? Do you want to run from 8 to 8 or do you want to, Mitch, you're a moderator. What do you think?
Well, thanks, Jim. I'm not going to be the moderator for this particular referendum, but there's been such significant interest in this particular issue that I would hate to disenfranchise anyone. And I would recommend that we do a full referendum, a 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Referendum on this so that everyone feels included and we don't have any criticism of not being as transparent as we could be. So I know it's a little more taxing for the people that work the polls, but that would be my recommendation. If you want it in the form of a motion, I'll do so, but I figure I want to hear from everybody else first.
Well, you can make a motion and for discussion. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that the referendum on Racebrook Country Club to be held at High Plains Community Center on February 16th, Tuesday, February 16th, be held from 6 a.m. till 8 p.m.
Okay. Is there a second to Mitch's motion? Okay, Ralph? Okay. Discussion on the motion.
Let me ask.
Go ahead.
The last time we did a referendum, I think we did it from noon until 6 or noon until 8. And I'm just wondering, Mitch, with you being there, did you see, was there a time where it really was lagging so that we could kind of narrow it down?
You know, Judy, it's hard to say. I think people are used to, for the most part, voting from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. We've done budget referendums from noon to 8, which I think we have lost some people, but the opportunity for absentee ballots, which is available now, and I hope, Jim, before we close, you or Pat can discuss in more detail how to get an absentee ballot for this particular referendum. It's just that unlike our budget referendums, which you think would have a tremendous turnout, we have low turnouts in the noon to 8 p.m. I think have worked. But for tonight's discussion, I think we should go from the 6 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, I'm just looking. Okay, see if I missed anything here. No, I didn't. Okay. Yeah, I think so. Pat O'Sullivan, he's been sending out absentees daily since it came out in the paper that absentees would be available. And they've sent out quite a few. I don't know if, Ann, do you know how many they've sent out? Ann thinks they've sent out about 300 absentees so far. So anybody out there who wishes to vote on this purchase by absentee ballot, you can call the town clerk's office at 203-891-4729 or 4730 and request an absentee ballot, or you can come in person and pick up the absentee ballot application and, you know, fill it out and handle that here. Either way, but the absentee ballots are available for this referendum. Town clerk's office, 617 Orange Center Road, first floor, end of the hall. Again, 203-891-4729 or 4730. And you can request it. You can come in person, fill it out here, whatever your wish may be. Did I leave anything out on that, Mitchell? I think that's pretty.
That's good.
And Jim, excuse me just a second. When is the end of receiving the absentee ballots? Would it be that the day of?
The 15th. Mr. O'Sullivan says the 15th.
Okay.
They can be issued.
It's the last day that they can be issued.
And then they can be dropped off in the ballot box or in
person.
Or in person on the 16th.
They can be dropped off. I forgot to say the ballot box is outside. That was used for the presidential, being that we're going to have at least three referendums between this and budgets and things. So Pat had the ballot box put back outside, which I wasn't keen about because of all the salt and the weather, but this is happening, so we needed to use it. So you can it has to be dropped off here by the 16th, but you can pick it up here and drop it off here on the 16th, the day of.
That is that we're closed on the 15th, it's President's Day.
And we are closed on February 15th because that is President's Day. So that means you need to come in on Friday before that.
12th. Friday the
12th, yeah.
Okay.
To pick one up. Or you can come in on the, oh no, you can't come in on the 16th and pick it up. If at the 16th, you have to go to the polling place to vote. Okay, so we have a motion to set the hours from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on February 16th, 2021 for the referendum on this. And all those in favor, raise your hands. Unanimous. Oppose, abstain, doesn't apply. All done. So that's that. So what we do then need is a motion to adjourn the meeting to the referendum. Recess the meeting. Ralph? We'll call Ralph Okenquist made it, and give me a second there. There we go. Judy Williams on that one. Okay, all in favor of that motion? Wave your hand. Okay, unanimous. Very good. Yeah, we had one more question about a person asking if it can negotiate a discount for Orange residents to join. And again, that's business. That's not our thing. We own it. We don't own the business. Let's see. Since OGAD is, to go to Jody's question, since OGAD is broadcasting this meeting, it should be available as video on demand on the town website and on YouTube for people to view again, is the answer I just got from Saul.
Good.
Will there be a transcript of the meeting available? By way of disc, or you can view it, as I just said, on demand. There probably will not be a complete and comprehensive paper transcript of this. It would be by way of the recording as it happened tonight. And you're welcome for the meeting. As one person said, then thank you for the meeting. I have no other business for this. My computer emails have stopped. Ian hasn't brought any more in, and there is no more chat on here. So with that said, oh, wait a minute. Bonnie Capola is asking if we would become a management and have to get a company to run the businesses if we took it over if they failed. No, Bonnie, we would find, I presume, and that would be up to the Board of Selectmen at that time, probably a third party to lease the facility. The best avenue is find another leasee of the property, but that would be, again, a bridge that we would cross at that time with whoever happens to be sitting on the Board of Selectmen at that time. Is the best I can answer that question. So.
Jim, as a point of order.
Yes, Mr. Carangelo.
Didn't we all move that the meeting be adjourned? I'm just worried if you're fielding more calls, do we need another motion to reopen?
I'm done. I'm done. She said it was a good question. So with that said, motion is made to adjourn to the referendum. This meeting is over at 9:14 p.m.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.
Families. Free lunch has been extended through the end of the school year. This is offered to all students in the Orange